Hello, everybody. It's fun that we've got people here. This is kind of impromptu, and it actually is working this time. I think my system says health is good. Give me a shout out in the comments if you are hearing everything fine. So, welcome to whoever's here. Let me know where you're from. We'll see if anyone else shows up. But the idea of this was like, let's do an impromptu hangout and see what kind of stuff maybe you're working on. If you have any questions for me, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, I'm just gonna hang here and all of that. This week has been a bit of a whirlwind. So my schedule kind of was disrupted. Disruptive is something that somebody does, but when you have, in any case, yeah, this week swept me off my feet. Nah, that's more romantic comedy. It took me by surprise. So, hey Tan, what's up? Where are you from? I'm hanging out here in way too hot Southern California in the United States. It was 119 degrees Fahrenheit today. Yeah, and that is roughly, if it's Celsius, it's probably above 40, like 42, 43. Not quite sure the conversion there, but yeah. Oh wow, is it hot out in Atlanta? I'd imagine it gets pretty humid out there. But yeah, that's hopefully it wasn't above 100 for you guys, but you never know. I saw some people got some rain out on the East Coast and all of that. So, well, welcome to this impromptu hangout. Hey, Nawabi too. Yeah, glad you guys could join us or join me. Ah, Switzerland. What's the weather like there? I know this is turning out into like this weather conversation, but oh, no rain for you yet in Atlanta. Well, in any case, let's talk filmmaking. And all of that. It's 22 Celsius. Got it. That's that's not too bad. It sounds like it's comfortable, right? That's yeah. I could go for some cloudy. It was sort of cloudy here, but then it cranked up to above 40 degrees Celsius. Heesh. Yeah. So again, let's talk filmmaking. Yeah, today or this week, like totally took me on a new route of stuff, so I wasn't able to get all my videos up this week. Uh, I'm hoping to play some catch up, but in America, for you in Switzerland, it was 4th of July week. American Independence Day was on the 4th, so a couple days ago, and everything sort of shuts down out here. Parades and fireworks and all that. So that was right in the middle of the week, which makes it very inconvenient to have a consistent week long workflow. But I was able to get some stuff done. But it put a little halt on getting my videos out on time. But we had some other big projects coming through. I don't know if any of you know, I also have a production company that we produce a lot of commercial content and stuff. But yeah, so that was kind of so far this week, and hence the live stream. I tried it a couple times before, but my internet was maybe the heat like totally bottlenecked it, and everything just shut down. So, and I got some pretty speedy internet. But in any case, that was that. I say that a lot, but I'm sorry. No. Do you guys have any filmmaking questions since it's a Q and A, or else I might just start sharing some stuff that I've learned over the past week that might be valuable to folks. I I'm streaming from my laptop using Streamlabs OBS, and that is a a version of OBS, which is Open Broadcasting System, but it's totally free, and there's some fun little features. Let's see. Could you please give some info regarding the different stages of filming, starting with the script gets a green light, what comes next, which crew members come first? Yes. Well, funny you mentioned that. I'm in the pre-planning process of, I don't know if you've gotten it. It think it works, but I've got an ebook on my webpage, jaredisham.com, that is called The Five Phases of Making Movies, and it kind of goes through my 5 phases of making movies, but I'm working on putting together a full, like, massive, in-depth course that goes through each of those 5 phases and giving movies that I was able to produce using this low budget, micro budget indie method. But with that being said, your question was like the different stages of filming, and I break it down into 5. And well, thank you. Send me an email. The email is listed on my About page if you couldn't get the ebook. That I've been having, like, attempting to get things going, and I know there are some people that had some issues, but send me an ebook or send me an email through my email listed on the business contact on my About page, and I will just send you a link to it. And easy as that. And ideally, it will all work. But the 5 phases that I have is it's development, pre-production, production, post, and distribution. And those are my 5 stages of filming. And development is, a lot of it is figuring out your story and then getting attachments and getting to the point of raising money. And then you go through pre-production, which is planning everything of what cameras you use, who you're going to hire, with your one comment of what is the first crew that hires. Usually it's a producer, and if you're making your own movie and you're wondering who should I hire first, you're technically producing, so you are the first hire. So oftentimes it's a producer of some sort that is pulling everything together, and then oftentimes your first people that you hire are the attachments that bring in any sort of money. If you're not dealing with that, it might be a director, or you have to have your writer unless you've purchased the script from somebody, and then you might pull in, like, your director, and then you'd select your DP or whatever from there. That's all in pre-production, sometimes in your development stage, and then you would have production, where you're shooting the whole movie, post, you're editing everything, and distribution, where it's going out to people. My big thing that I would say is many times it's forgotten or people don't mention it, but in your development stage, you need to be figuring out what your distribution strategy is. And that will determine how much money you need to spend, how much money you need to raise so that you're not losing money on it, and even kind of how you end up shooting it. So I do that all in my ebook. If you, I'll try and get the ebook thing working on the webpage this week or next week. I got this crazy project. I have to go to, like, Vegas and Seattle and bunch of things and wrapping things. Yeah, so that might slow things down. I'll do my best. If it's not up on the webpage, the About section on my YouTube channel, it'll say business contact, reach out, click that button so you can get my email, send me an email, and I will just send you a copy of it. I hope it's super valuable for you. That's why I made it. So yeah, with that, let's see what other Other things. Yeah, we've covered the thing not working, working on that. You had a chance to shoot a short using a Blackmagic camera, RAW or Sony FS5 S-Log2. I would say if you're trying to choose which one to shoot on, which one do you have access to? That's my first question. That would be my first question. If you have access to the Magic or the Blackmagic camera and not the Sony FS5, then shoot on the Blackmagic. If you have access to Sony, shoot on the Sony. If you're debating between the two, one thing that you might consider is not so much the image and flexibility of stuff, is look at your budget and then find out how large the file sizes are for each camera. And you may run into, and I know this happens a lot with Blackmagic because of their RAW, the file sizes are huge, and you might end up spending like a few $1,000s just to be able to store your raw data because it's so much stuff depending on how much you're shooting. Because I know the Blackmagic can be pretty hefty file sizes if you're shooting RAW especially. But that's a huge element for me. I'm super interested in the Panasonic EVA 1 or EVA 1. I've heard the Panasonic guys call it both. But the EVA 1, what interests me about that is if you have to do a Google search for it, but Netflix has a list of approved cameras for Netflix original series, and the Panasonic EVA 1 or EVA 1 is an approved camera, and I believe you can shoot straight to the SD card, and it passes their quality control of what's approved Netflix original acquisition for an A camera. And that is super huge because the file sizes are really small. And you're shooting 4K, and now they've got the 5.7K raw output. If you have access to that, or it's in the ballpark of considering something to shoot on, play with that. Because it might be more upfront, but you might save money on your storage costs at the end. Canon 5D Mark II, that one, it's hard to say because I know or you didn't even say which Mark version. That one is totally fine. If you're just shooting HD, like, why not? This documentary that we shot all on SLRs, and people are really liking the way it looks. File sizes are small. It's just a little clunky. You don't have as much room in your post. If you're thinking of shooting on the Mark IV for 4K, you also are having those large file sizes because I think it's like 400 megabits a second, which might end up being, I don't know, like I think 12 minutes for a 64 gig file or 64 gig card or something. So there's that element there that you just might have you might have some issues there. So I don't know. It is something to consider going forward as far as that goes. But I have no issues against the Canon 5D. Nothing against Blackmagic. They've got a lot of range. You also DaVinci Resolve is a great option for that. For editing and color, and now effects, and there's like so much free stuff in that program. And then FS7, I think, or FS5, I believe that one's on the Netflix list. So you're gonna have a lot of latitude to play with in there. So you'll really see it shine in your post production, I think. But it really comes down to what do you have access to and what best tells your story. That would be my suggestion. Yeah, I'm looking at maybe going. I shoot on Canon right now. but I've got some older Canons. I'm looking at maybe switching over to Panasonic. Strange enough, all of my features I've shot on Panasonic cameras. The first one was the HVX 200, and that was like the brand new indie camera at the time. And then my second feature was on the, what is it, the AGA 100 or AG 100, whatever that other Panasonic camera was. And that one looked pretty good. I was pleased with that, I guess, for what we had. I hope, did that answer your questions? I'm hoping it did. We've got 5 people joining us. This is cool. Welcome everybody. Yeah. There's a chance that one of the 5 is my browser just to check the stream's going good. I don't know. Let's see. How many shorts or features have I made? I've made like goodness. I'm not sure how many shorts it's been. It ranges because I've had a lot of like directing in school. I probably did like maybe 10 or 15, and then after that maybe like 4 or 5 at various levels. And then I've shot a bunch for people, produced a few, helped out friends where they needed it. Features, I've directed 2 features. Both of them, I wrote and directed the first one. That was like right out of college. I was like, if I want to make money making movies, then I'm going to probably have to be doing what I want to be making money doing. And at the time, shorts wasn't a viable way to make money. And now I feel that's changed a lot. You can have a viable career just on short films. Like look at Ryan Conley of Film Riot. There's a great example. He just does short films, and he's got this whole channel devoted to it. And Corridor Digital, they're doing all these little short segments. So it's a totally different world than when I was starting off, where it was like short films was like, oh yeah, cool, festivals and make no money, and that's changed. So I directed my first feature right out of like maybe a year out of college, and then yeah, the second one I was a consulting producer, and I kind of gave them pointers on how to guide the script to be marketable and like fix things here and there, and so I gave my best input, and they either chose to do it or follow my suggestions or go a different route. So that's, as a consultant, you're not telling them what to do. But then I also directed that one. They hired me to direct it because I had directed a low budget feature before. They're like, well, you can do it. So that was a lot of fun. I'm proud of a lot of moments in that movie. See, what are some of these other things? Can we watch your shorts or features on YouTube or somewhere else? There's a bunch of like goofy sketches that I've posted on my YouTube channel. I think I have a playlist in there of like sketches or shorts. There's also a few of the shorts that I've done on my company website because they were all produced through my company, stageham.com. I think there's a link in the description somewhere, but I'll add it after this. But it's stageham.com. There's a Western that I co-created with a filmmaking buddy of mine. That one's a lot of fun. And then the features, I know the first feature I did should be available on at least Vimeo International. It's on like iTunes, and it was briefly on Netflix for a bit. I don't think it's streaming anymore, but it was streaming for a little bit on Netflix. I'm sure it's on Amazon. That one's called Bounty. That was my first attempt at making a full-fledged feature, so I've learned a ton since then, and spent a long time looking at where I feel I could have done better, and I tried to focus on learning that craft a lot better since then. think there's probably between my YouTube channel and webpage stageham.com. I'm sure there's stuff that you can pick out somewhere in there, or Amazon, Netflix, possibly iTunes. I believe they're both there. Let's see. Oh, nice. Yeah, I can't remember when I started following Ryan, but he's come a long way since I first started him, and he's super inspirational. I like there's a lot of cool stuff and knowledge bombs that he drops a lot. I'm always curious what he's going to come up with next, and I'm also jealous of the people he gets to work with sometimes, like Andrew Kramer and um, why do I forget his name? He's got the storybook, story clock. Seth. Seth, I'm gonna look it up. What's his name? Totally blinked. That's what happens when you have a busy week. His name is Seth something, but he did all of the Red Giant, a lot of the Red Giant shorts. And now I can't remember the plot device was one of his first ones, and that one was fantastic. Seth Worley, yes, thank you. Love his work. He's super fun to watch. And Ryan Booth is a fantastic DP. I don't know. I think he's been doing some directing recently. Um, yeah, yeah. I was watching a ballistic behind the scenes earlier. Okay, here's a good one. How did you get the money up for your feature? This is how I did it, and I highly recommend you do not do it this way. I applied for a line of credit at the bank, and they gave it to me. And then I attempted to find more money and not successful. And then I had some producers that came on, and they helped bring in some finishing funds so we could wrap out our production days and everything. And then we finished the movie by selling it to distributor, and they helped us get it with their advance and everything, get it completed and out there. Uh, don't use your credit cards. There's ways to make a movie without a credit card now, such as crowdfunding. And if you treat your crowdfunding campaigns as part of your distribution strategy, then you have like this leg up when it comes to if you're going to sell it. You go, oh, and I have like this many people that wanna watch it, and then you can use that as bargaining chips for selling it. So don't use your credit cards. I would say crowdfunding, having attachments and being able to show how marketable your movie is a highly valuable thing. I'm going to go through a whole section in this training I'm trying to put together. The micro budget indie, and the first phase is development. So development is going to cover like different ways in which to raise money. If you can't raise money, how to still make it without going into debt. Little things like that. So, and just because you don't have money doesn't mean you can't make a movie. I don't know if anyone saw the series on go90.com that Troublemaker Studios produced, Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew series. It's super inspirational. They like making their movies for $7,000 or less. Uh, Granted, they have a lot of marketing power behind it, but it is possible. So, uh, yes, I am open to collaborations, and I've been following this daily vlogger. He also has a production company in Pennsylvania, Cody Wayner, and he's got this hashtag going, no small creators, because like I would totally be considered a small creator, but there's value from every level, and YouTube isn't like the end all creative platform. It's like a platform, and you don't have to be on YouTube, or you don't have to have as big followings to be a genius filmmaker. It's there's some really good filmmakers that it's their first time out there, and you're like, man, where have you been? So yeah, open to collaborations and open to collaborations with new guys. It really comes down to what the collaboration idea is, if it fits into the vision of kind of where I'm going and my schedule, because it's kind of going crazy. It's a crazy schedule right now. So yeah, let's see if there's, did I miss any any sort of questions in here. Completing directing my third feature, going back to the how many shorts and features I've done. I'm in the process of completing one. I have a documentary feature that's sort of rolling into a ideally a series, but that's in like completion stages and funding slash distribution and stuff. So yeah. See, I've been learning screenwriting filmmaking for the past 6 to 7 years. Awesome. I think there's no wasted time on focusing on screenwriting. Uh, yes, well, if I have plenty of theory, but have never made anything. If that's where you're at, start practicing by, I would say, even if you aren't an actor, start like grab like your phone if that's all you've got. Um, grab your phone and or whatever camera you're using and start telling like mini stories, but to make it easier on yourself, tell them about inanimate objects, like a story about your phone. Give your phone life. Personify your phone. Personify like a screwdriver. I have a screwdriver here. That's why I said that. And then you'll just practice of like different shots you can do, like, and then start with like silent stories, no dialogue, and it's just gonna practice. You'll be practicing uh, different shot selections and editing and pacing and all of that. And then if you just want to practice shooting stuff, B-roll stuff is like a really good way to just work on building up your skills with a camera. So that's my suggestion. But theory is, I think, highly underrated with this focus on we don't need film school mentality, which technically you don't, but it's not bad to have. I learned all sorts of theory in film school, and it's really helped to shape my creative eye and like approach to things. So I feel like theory is oftentimes thrown out the window for the logistics hands-on experience, but oftentimes people right out of film school like have this mentality that they know everything there is, and then they get tossed into it and they don't usually. But in any case, theory's not bad. It's very good. I actually, after my first feature, I spent like 5 to 7, like even now, it's been studying screenwriting because I felt that was my biggest, weakest point in my first film. So I just dove in, found this awesome screenwriting instructor, Corey Mandel, that just like totally rocked my perception of screenwriting and writing a script and how to approach it and how to hit beats and know why your story's not working. That's a huge thing, is knowing why your story doesn't work, as opposed to just going, oh, well, let's just rewrite it and try something new. I'm now able to identify my holes way faster. Let's see, what other things have we got here? Ah, the kitty showed up. I'm a bit scared. I think I know enough, but I am so unsure. I just want to work with someone who has experience. Yeah, definitely have experience, but oftentimes the experienced guys won't want to work with you or with newbies unless they show that there's drive. So I seriously say just shoot flowers or like B-roll stuff to build up your reel and comfort behind a camera, and then tell stories with inanimate objects. I think That's super helpful, and there's no pressure because you don't have to talk to actors. It just is going to help you figure out your style without any pressure attached. Um, cool. Yeah, just keep writing. There's a friend of mine wrote for years, and then he started ghostwriting, and then always had new scripts and everything, and now he's big time with like multiple deals with studios, and I don't feel like name dropping, but I'm sure you've seen his movie or know of his movie that he wrote that kind of launched him, but it was like his overnight success took him like 15 years. So it's just like keep going. Don't stop. Just keep on practicing. Nice. I don't find anything wrong with spending your own money just on a movie. Just make sure it's not credit, so you're not owing somebody at the end. And if you do save, just know that that's going for that specific thing. And if you plan it out right, then you'll spend less money on the movie than what you know you can sell it for. And that's a huge thing is figure out what the value of it is, what people are willing to spend. And if you really want to make that movie and they only want to spend, let's say, pay like $15,000 for it, don't make it for 20, make it for 10 and you make a little profit. So that's a huge thing. What do you think what kind of budget do I need? I know it depends on script, location, actors, etc., but for a micro budget feature, I have 10 story ideas that I think I could do for 10 grand each. And that's kind of where I uh, am going in some ways. Like, all right, well, I know I can make this one for 10 grand, but it does come down to, and this is something I want to add into my training that I'm in the process of finalizing outlines, then we have to shoot it. But it is the idea of you find out what your market value is. There's a lot of different ways to do this. Like if you have attachments, who is attached to your story or your script? Is it a director? Is it a producer? Is it actors? And what are they valued at? And then your genre has a lot to play in that factor. And then even your following, it can have a huge play in that. And then you find out what people are valuing your project as at. And if you can find out what the estimated value of your project is before you start uh, raising money or anything, then you'll know that, hey, like I was saying before, people like Netflix would only spend 15,000 for a 2 year deal for this, let's say. Then don't spend, and if you need that money back early, don't spend 15 or 20,000 on the movie. Make sure you spend less than what that is, so you've got some sort of profit coming in. Another thing to know is oftentimes post production is half the cost of the production, or sometimes like that. Sometimes post production is more expensive. Um, would it be useful if I had the budgeting software that or the budgeting spreadsheet that I use when I'm budgeting projects with all the line items? Would that be useful for anybody? I've been debating whether I'm going to make that something to put on the store or not, like for 99 cents or something. Um, I don't know, something like that. Let me know if that's useful. I'll try and put that together. Um, two stories. How can I get money for it? That's Ruben. One thing. Welcome back, Ruben. I actually got it going. The For stories, how you can get money for it. I kind of was mentioning a little bit about that, but if depending on the project, it might be the fastest way would be start a crowdfunding campaign. If you do that, I know Seed and Spark may not be the best platform to run it, but they have like this amazing like school of like how to run a successful campaign. And they do have a higher success rate because they coach everyone through it. But you may not raise as much on that platform, but at least go there and go through their crowdfunding like school or training. It's fairly intense, but it's free, and it helps you, and you can apply that to Indiegogo or Kickstarter or Seed and Spark. However, that might be the easiest way to do that. But that would be the easiest way to find it. There's other ways. There's a website called Slated. I think it's invite only, but if you can find somebody that's on there, they've got a place where a lot of financiers will hang out in that area. You should also check out the podcast that they put out. I don't know if they've done any in the past year or so, but it's called Filmonomics. And it's like these in-depth interviews with producers that made movies from the platform, as well as financiers who funded movies because of the platform. So Slated's Filmonomics podcast. There's at least 8 episodes, I believe, about 20-30 minutes long. But really, really interested, and it goes into the business side of stuff. Highly recommend that. Let's see what else. I'm very passionate when it comes to filming. I want to be a professional scriptwriter and director. Well, practice. $10,000 is not a problem for me. I will keep in touch with you. Awesome. You could totally do something for $10,000. It's just a matter of another deal is if you want bigger actors and your script is like really solid and you only have 10,000, or you don't want to spend more than 10,000. A scenario I'm looking at playing with is to keep my costs down to put that money towards production. Is offer profit sharing with your crew, like your cast. You say, hey, come work for me. I'll give you like this base really low rate, and you'll get like 2 or 5%, whatever you're willing to give up on that. You get that with the return on the film, and that's a way that you could potentially make some extra cash and stuff. So yeah, or at least keep costs down, because then they'll have that vested interest. They'll want to also promote it, hopefully, if they feel passionate about it. But it's something worth exploring. Not everyone's going to want to take it, but if you have people that really like the project, just say, hey, would you be willing to partner on this, and throw them a producer credit. If you can be willing to take your ego out of stuff and give credits away a little bit more freely, then you can sometimes get some stuff, and then they might even be willing to throw some efforts your way in getting it made, helping to get it made. So yeah, so I'm totally doing that for my low $10,000 budget movies. I'm going to offer profit sharing for, and probably producer credit to some degree, because that's like investing in the film, to the actors, and see if they're interested. And we just slam it out real fast and hopefully make a good sale and give them more cash in their pocket at the end if it sells, then, as opposed to just getting paid a rate. So I do sort of have a production house. We have an office here in our local town, Pasadena, California. If you've heard of the Rose Parade, that is the New Year's Day Rose Parade in the U.S. We are on the parade route, so it's pretty fun. But yeah, that's our little production house. It's small production space, mostly post facilities. You can see my offices in a lot of my previous YouTube videos. So yeah, that's our office. My day job is our production company right now. I was freelance editing for like TV shows and stuff like that, reality TV shows and stuff, and I haven't taken on any jobs. Actually had to turn down a few because business for our production company is picking up. So that's kind of what my current day job is. And our production company we do a lot of, we do movies. We're working on a documentary series that we're pitching to different networks and studios and stuff to help come in and help fund the whole thing. And then we also, a lot of our clients that come in are paying us to do like Instagram story ads or Twitter posts and stuff like that. So we're doing a lot of social media content, a lot of motion graphics work. That's kind of what the business is right now. So it's kind of jumping between stuff. it's a lot of corporate clients, I guess you could say, but um, hey, it pays the bills and it keeps us using the software we would use in our free time anyway. So it's kind of a win-win, and I can work from Hawaii if I wanted to, or the beach. So I can't do that when I'm at a studio editing someone else's TV show. So that's always nice. Um, See, TV movies in Switzerland are good options to make movies for TV channels. Yeah, especially I'm not sure what Switzerland's their their current TV market is in uh the United States at least. Their like example would be Netflix committed to spend, I think it's $8 billion on 700 original productions this year. This year, and that is only halfway through the year, and they're just like spending money like crazy. Uh, and there's a lot of new platforms, but in doing that, I feel like there's a lot of the smaller TV networks are losing content, and they're desperately searching to fill their content because like people like Netflix are buying everything, and paying more. So it is definitely a viable option to look at TV networks to say, hey, do you have any time slots? What are you looking for? Pitch some ideas and see if you can, like your local network, see if you can get like maybe a few $1,000s to do maybe a documentary piece or something. Because documentaries are really cheap to produce, and really fun to see if you can create almost like a movie type story out of a documentary. That's what's interesting to me. It's not just like a reality show, but can you make your documentary feel cinematic like some epic blockbuster movie? And it really will stretch your storytelling and very little cost. So, highly recommend that. Uh, 5-year plan to produce and direct movies in English and German for Switzerland. Do it, man. Don't let anyone tell you not to. If you just set it out. That's how I made my first one. I was like, I just want to make a movie, and people were like, you can't make it. And then I made a western. Like it was like a lot of people thought the production value was pretty high, especially for the amount that we actually spent on it, because we didn't spend really any money on it. Um, so, well, it relatively. So, yeah, uh, it just do it. Don't let people tell you can't, and do it, because that's the only way to do it. I know that's what I'm learning is, especially recently, don't don't uh don't let other people tell you can and can't do something. Just do it and figure out if you're running into problems, figure out a way to solve it. So be creative with your solutions, and you'll be done with something while everyone else is still talking about it. See, oh, nice. Yo, you're going to do that in English and German, the same script twice. That's interesting. I did work on one short where it was in English and in French. And so they would do the English version of the take, and then they would go back and redo the take in French. It made for a very interesting, it was a full day, 12-hour day shooting for like probably like a minute and a half long short, but it takes twice as long, or you have to do twice as many takes, or they just don't get as many takes. You do like say 4 takes max, and everyone has to be on their game. But that was one way that they did it, was they shot English and then they did another take, and it was in French. So, and then they had two versions of the movie. So it's definitely that there's a real life case scenario for you to help you in planning. Uh, Jello Evan Bart, welcome. Glad you could join us. Well, while I wait to see if there's any other questions that pop up, I'm going to plug documentary filmmaking as a fantastic and cheap way to practice your filmmaking skills. Um, because you can easily do these things and really learn the structure of stories and hooks and conflicts, because you got to add conflicts to your story, or else it's not really a story. I don't know. I posted a video a little bit ago that was saying, is story really all that important? And story is important if you're trying to tell a story. If you're trying to create like an experience, and then maybe story isn't quite as necessary, but it's not going to be a story. It's going to be some sort of experience driven type video. But if you tell a story, you are also creating an experience. So it's just a double whammy if you can make sure you've got your story nailed in. And story, in my opinion, is a character striving to achieve a goal that's faced with opposition. So that you need that conflict in your story, or else it's just like moments in time. Um, but you can do that in a documentary. In our last one, we crafted all of our questions for our interviews with conflict in mind. How can we build out, or how can we discover a conflict in these stories? It was really interesting, and we learned so much cool stuff that kind of took it beyond what we were thinking. But yeah, so there's that. If you don't have money for, or you want to practice and you don't have money for scripted content, find something or someone that is worth exploring a story on, and just do a documentary on them. Start small, like 1.5 minute, 2 minute documentaries are fantastic. And you know what? You can get a decent chunk of change from people to make those types of stories for them. Tons of business and commercials and stuff are now like documentary style, like mini documentary short films, and they've got these massive budgets because they're Fortune 500 companies that want a 2 minute documentary made to air on TV or run on their social channels or strip down and turn into a whole marketing campaign. So don't underestimate the value of documentaries. And scripted movies are so much fun. I kind of get the high. I get jazzed about making those. So let's see. How many days did it take you to finish your features, and how long were the scripts pages? My first one, the Western, was 92 pages, and um, it took and it took us 15 days to shoot. We shot for 12 days, and then we did 3 pickup days later on because we had to find some additional funds to wrap up production because we couldn't get everything in. Partly because of newbie, partly you really need to find a crew that's willing to hustle and get the shots that you need, and not everything has to be perfect, I guess. And then, or know where you're going to put your focus on. The second feature I did, I think it was like 84 pages, 89. It was below 90 pages, and we shot that in 12 days. And I think afterwards they did some second unit productions, did a couple pickup days after I wrapped on shooting that I wasn't involved in, and that, so it would have been like 14 days. But principal photography was 12 days. One day we shot 12 pages and had, was it 5 locations? 5, like, full company moves. Like, we had to pack up, drive to a new location that was like 10-15 minutes away, unload, set up, shoot, drive. It was between 4 and 1, 2, 3, because there was a moving 1, 2, 3. I think it was 4 locations and 13 pages, and we did it in 14 hours. It's a long day, but we like hustled. So, but then you run into situations where you might get arguments of like, oh no, I need to look this way, or I have to do like this. And if you look at your script page and it's like an eighth of a page, it's literally going to be in the movie for 1/8 of a minute at that. So don't put all of your eggs in these teeny little details if your story is on 3/4 of the page and you're spending your time on 1/8 of the page. So that's a learn that you just be sure you manage your time well to be able to get stuff done quickly. Um, what genres do you have? Do you rent some or have you all what needed for shooting? Of course. Well, um, oh, what gears do you have? Sorry. Uh, we have the basic stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that like red cameras and like all of these high end things like the Cine Alta cameras or the Varicams and stuff like that, which you may need for production. There's no reason to buy it if you're only going to use it twice a year. Um, so I would say like we rent a lot of our gear as we need it. The stuff that we own is our post production equipment because we're always every day, even when we're shooting, we're offloading, checking stuff in our post software on our computers, and so that's what we own. We have a few lights. We have some lights and some cameras and stuff, mostly DSLRs because that's really all we need for these quick turnaround stuff. But when we get a bigger project, it's definitely we're renting gear to because it oftentimes we don't need to. We'll see. More work that comes in might change that, and we'll be buying some equipment. Um, yeah, but we'll see. And I've been using. We have a local rental house for like fast turnaround stuff where I have to rent something real fast. I'll just go there and or for like one day, I'll just go down there, rent the equipment, and return it. If it's longer days, I usually use like lens rentals, uh, because the price might be a little bit cheaper, but you pay a little bit more for shipping. So it just determines like how long do you need the equipment, or if you're traveling, is it easier just to rent it and ship it to the location you're going to? So yeah. Um, and did you do workshops before shooting to get good performances? Um, what my main thing, because I oftentimes I don't have we on these projects we didn't have money for rehearsals. Um, so my method is if you have not read this book, I'm actually very close to releasing a it's coming out on my in my store, the director's cheat sheet, and it's something that I created from the two movies that I did. Being able to direct your actors fast to get good performances, and it's an offshoot of Judith Weston's book, Directing Actors, Creating Memorable Performances for TV and Film. I'll link it in the description below. I've got an affiliate link or something to it. But it is like the best directing actors book for performances I've ever read. It's fantastic and can't recommend it enough. I like read through it every. Let me see. Do I've got it? Yeah, I read through it before every movie that I shoot. This book here, highly recommended. Um, it is like the best book for getting performances fast and effective so that people aren't confused. But from that, I like the first movie, and this all is going to be in like the little bio of why I'm creating this cheat sheet. But my first movie I was directing. I couldn't figure out like we need to make this adjustment, and in the back of this book, there's like these quick fixes and like terms and stuff that she explains how to use in the book. So you have to read the book to be able to effectively use them. But she had all this document in the back, and I would run around the set. So I'm like behind the saloon of the Western set, and I reached into my jacket and I pull out the book, and I'm like, okay, that's a good one. Yeah, no, that's gonna fix my problem I'm having. And I'd stuff it in my pocket, and I'd run back around and just go, how about this? And they're like, wait, where did you just go? And uh, then it would work or whatever. And so it's like, and then the first AD caught me once. It's like, oh, you're reading, because directing actors, you don't want to be on a set and pull out your manuals. Like, how do I direct an actor? It's not gonna convey professionalism so much, but um, yeah. And so I got caught once, and he's like, oh, that's kind of funny. The next movie I did, I didn't want that scenario to happen, and so the binder is at the office. But I went through and I wrote down, I copied some of this, and I'm not including any of her cheat sheets in my document because that would be stealing. Go buy her book because it's fantastic. But I created my own, kind of inspired by what she portrayed in the book, and I made this like sheets and sheets, and then used some of hers. But I didn't take the book. I hand wrote them out so it looked like I was taking notes. And then when I got to set, people would say, "Well, what about this?" And I'd have my script out in this like in a binder, and they would ask me a question. I'm like, "Well, let me check," and go through and have all these notes, and they would say, "Wow, he plans so much," and I'd be going through. I was like, "How about this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and that I attribute a lot of us finishing that 80 something pages in 12 days to the fact that there was these quick fixes that I had on hand at all times. And yeah, and so I developed it even more because I found some flaws when I was directing that movie. I'm like, I have to separate these into categories so I can find what I'm looking for fast, and it's not like searching through pages of lists. So that's what the director's cheat sheet is going to be. Very soon, I'm just doing some finalized touches. I've been saying that for forever, but seriously, it's like real close. Just have to wrap up some stuff, and then ta-da, it'll be available. So there's that I'm going to do. But yeah, that's how I worked with my act. Oh, that's one way I did actors. But to get back to your question of did you workshop before, what I would do is I'd write as much backstory as I could from my own perspective, and then I would talk with the actors, like phone calls, like, well, who do you see this character as? And I never tell them what my backstory was. I let them kind of decide like what their backstory was, but we talk it out. And then if they said something that wasn't quite what I was envisioning, what I would say is I'm like, well, what would you think about this? Do you think this could have happened? And I ask the questions to maybe lead them in my direction, but I don't want it to be my idea. I want them to discover it because your performance is going to be way more genuine if they're discovering their backstory and you're not telling them what it is. It's the self discovery element. Like you learn stuff better if you've discovered it on your own as opposed to somebody telling you that this is how it is. But if you discover, I'm like, oh no, this is how it is. It will stick with you better, and your understanding of it will be that much more solid. So that's how I do. I'll spend as much time in conversation with actors ahead of time to just find out where they see the character being or coming from and their backstory. Then I kind of give my ideas, and then when we get to set, then we get to a decision. They know how their actor would respond. I know how the actor would respond, or the character would respond. They know how their character would respond. I know how their character would respond because we've talked out like who they are as a person. And instead of learning, workshopping how to do the scene, you're discussing how the person is as a person. And I almost sometimes feel that's better unless you're doing a highly blocked scene where there's lots of action. Then that's where you workshop stuff. In school, I did a musical, and I had a choreographer that spent a day with all of the dancers uh, practicing their dance moves, and they obviously had to practice that. They couldn't show up and go, "Oh, how's it look okay?" or something. So, yeah. Let's see. What else did you have to say? Yes, he does seem to be well equipped. He has many family members who help him. Yeah, there's Josh, and then is it Tim is his older brother, who's like his producer, and they do have. The thing is they have gear, but I don't think they have excessive amounts of gear because I know he's got this like C100. He's probably bought a few cameras since they moved into their production facility. But he was starting out. He was shooting like on the 5D or something, and then he upgraded to the C100. Um, and that's something that they were shooting on all the time. But for ballistic, pretty darn sure that they rented those like 7 cameras that they were using. Um, Guaranteed that they rented all of that stuff. So, because there's just so many facilities out here, and there's no reason to own it if you're only going to be shooting with 7 cameras for one day or 3 days, I think is what they were. So, it's cheaper to just rent stuff at that scale than it is to purchase it. Like even Warner Brothers, I don't think would have their gear. They just rent it from a facility, and then they don't have to maintain it. If something goes wrong with it, then the facility takes care of it. So yeah. Do I have Hollywood aspirations? If yes, how much time have you given yourself and your top favorite movies of all time, any genre? Well, I just like telling stories, and I kind of came to that realization pretty early that I like telling stories, and if I only can tell a story without getting an award, then hey, I shared a story, and hopefully it's affected someone in a positive way. And so, uh, who cares? Like there was one movie I did in college where I was so sick of people's egos of like credits that I it was considered they considered it like the best one of my better ones, and it was up there in that year with like the top 4 or 5, but I like refused. At least that's what I found out the next year. Professors shared their favorite films, and mine was on there, but I didn't put my name on it at all because I was so annoyed that year with like, stop being so egotistical about credits. Who cares? It's the story, and so uh, I gave other people credit, and but I didn't put my name on there, and maybe that's a cop out. But the original idea behind it was I was sick of the egos, and then if it didn't turn out good, then my name wasn't attached to it. Oops. Um, but yeah. But hey, if I got an Oscar or got a studio deal, I wouldn't turn it down because yeah, I wouldn't turn it down because I don't really need or like why turn down something that's going to help you to produce more. And that's been my thought. Is there's a theory of do you sell out or not, and I feel like there's a lot of the mentality that if you don't sell out, then you are you're you're betraying your art or your craft. But oftentimes, the people who refuse to sell out aren't making anything, and the people who choose to sell out or and take the big paycheck, they're actually producing something and they're actually bettering their craft. And it's another game of learning how to still be artistic in the confines of people telling you how things have to go because they've got the money. So, yeah, if I got a if I got a studio offer, I would totally take it. If that happens with our documentary, then yeah, sure. And we'll see where that goes. But 5 favorite movies of all time. This I always have a issue with this because and this is probably the dumbest reason why, but I think that like a romantic comedy is a totally different uh, type of movie that as a like sci-fi western. And so like it's like how do you compare the two of which one is better? It's like comparing apples to oranges type of scenario. So I can tell you my favorite genres and some movies that I really enjoy in those genres. I love westerns. Probably my favorite genre. I am drawn to like the gritty B movie action films, partly because they look like they're having so much fun. Um, I'm also highly drawn to dramas, uh, just because there's a lot you can play with in there, and the stories are so can be so real, and Um, yeah, so those are three that I would have to say. Movies in there. I'm very impressed with the series Godless on Netflix. It was written and directed by Scott Frank, I believe. He wrote Logan, uh, and Steven Soderbergh produced it. One of the best westerns I've seen, probably ever at this point. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Uh, I also like 310 to Yuma with James Mangold, and if you're watching the uh, James Mangold's the director. If you watch the behind the scenes or the director's commentary, there's in the early like maybe first 20 minutes, he says a lot of people that make westerns get so caught up in the fact that they're making a western that their focus is on making a movie about cliches instead of making a movie about people. And that was a huge thing no matter what type of movie you're making. Make sure you're not making a movie about cliches unless it's a total spoof. Um, then I guess that's what's expected. But if you're making a movie, focus on the fact that it's a movie about characters trying to overcome something. Uh, and it won't matter if it's a western or if it's a sci-fi. You'll tell a good story in a world, and it'll just be really cool. And so the ending of Godless I thought was kind of dumb, but everything else was like amazing. Uh, Highly recommend that one for westerns. Action movies, three or The Bourne Supremacy. Um, Love Paul Greengrass's work, and I don't know. I watched The Bourne Supremacy. Um, it was way back when it was still in America, mail order DVDs, and streaming wasn't something yet. And it was when Blockbuster was still in existence, and somehow it like kept showing up because I forgot to like remove it from the list of movies that was mailing to me, and then I rented it from a store. I saw it like 8 times in like a week period or something like that. I was so fascinated by the way they shot the action or the chase scene in that movie, because it was this focus on Jason Bourne's character always searching for light, like enlightenment, and so the entire scene was like searching for enlightenment, and then uh, they you they always were focusing on Jason Bourne's car, whether an explosion or car crash was happening. They're like, that's not important. That's not who the story is about. And so, to me, it was very fascinating. Did I go to film school and your thoughts on script breakdown? It seems very confusing. I did go to film school, and script breakdown, the biggest part of that is it basically preps you for when you're shooting your film. If you're if you do your script breakdown properly, you'll know how many props you need, what actors are in it, what who's on screen, or who's in your shot, and how long or how many days you need them, all of that stuff. It can get very confusing, but if you what I'll often do is I'll do it in passes. Like first actors, I find all the actors, and then after do that, I'll maybe find all of their wardrobe to go with that, and just start making lists of every element that's needed, and then that goes to your script breakdown of who is going to be used in, or how it's going to play out, so you know that like these people we have this location, but there's 4 different story days in this location, and it there's yeah, I'm getting a phone called. Hold on 1 second. Hello, I'm live streaming.
What?
I'm live streaming. Say hi.
Oh,
You're you're broadcasted on the internet. That's my wife, everybody. She's at the office. She had an event tonight. So,
okay. Why don't you call me back when you're done?
what? Oh,
You're
you're
call
not.
me back when you're done?
No, we're still talking. What did you need? You want me to call you back? Okay. The world knows you. All right.
Okay.
I'll call you
Bye,
back.
world. Okay, bye.
Bye. Sorry about that. Yeah, so let's go back to this script breakdowns. It's total. It's useful for pre-production. It also helps you know your expenses and scheduling and stuff. So it confusing, which is probably why you have somebody dedicated to doing your script breakdown, some producer or something like that. Will spend a lot of time on that. So yeah, and color coding uh, is the way to go because like I used to use the Adobe script or Adobe Story because they had it built in, but it doesn't really do that anymore. I think Final Draft has some breakdown stuff, but I'm not sure which program to go with next. I don't know. So the if I find some stuff, I'll do a video on that in the future. Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch, everyone. I should probably wrap this up. We're going on an hour 15, but I really hope this was beneficial. It's kind of fun, and the whole goal is to hopefully provide you with some insight and or lessons of what not to do in the least case. Yeah, thank you all for checking in. I'll answer. I saw some emails came in for the ebook. I'll try and get those to you, uh, if not tonight, by tomorrow or by next week latest. So, yeah. But we'll do more of these as I can figure out my live stream studio setup. So I just haven't had time. So I apologize. Uh, Indeed. So this was way faster to actually communicate with you guys than waiting like 4 hours to 4 or 5 hours of editing a 2 minute piece and then having it go up the next day. So I'll still try and get that done by Monday. I might be a couple days behind this week, but it might push me ahead for next week. So yeah. So with that, thank you all for joining in, and we will stay in touch. And the info that I talked about, I'll also link that stuff below, like the directing actors book. Ugh. Highly recommended, and director's cheat sheets that I created to complement the stuff that Judith teaches, definitely going to be out soon. So, and I'll also try and add the budget spreadsheet on my store as well, so you can have access to that. So, with all that, stay focused and keep filming, everybody. And I will see you next time.